We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where he drafted quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shador's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's becoming just harder in general to do business from a money standpoint in general, let alone the competition. So yeah, Betfred closing up shop, will be gone by tomorrow. We'll see if any sportsbook fills this void. It'll mean that there's a license up for grabs in Pennsylvania, which is one of the biggest states for sports betting and is home to a lot of other operators. At this point, we're getting to a time when no one's rushing into the market.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
It's edge rushers. That's where it is right now. And I think Myles Garrett is in a class of his own. I think TJ Watt's right there. I think Micah Parsons is right there. Certainly, those guys are very, very good. Myles Garrett is in a class of his own. He just absolutely is. When the advanced stats about the double team rate, his quarterback pressure rate, all of that, he just stands a notch. I don't want to say a big gap, but he stands a notch ahead of those guys.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
ESPN and the NFL have finalized a landmark deal, including NFL Red Zone. And what does this deal mean for the future of sports media? Plus, 6-time Olympic gold medalist Diana Taurasi's in studio talking WNBA salaries and her new Prime Video docuseries. Hello and welcome into Front Office Sports Today from our FOS studios. I'm Renee Washington.
And I'm Dan Roberts. Thanks for joining us. Time to talk about the intersection of sports, business, and culture. We do it every day here. Let's dive in the shoot-around.
Yes, one of the best Premier League players of all time, 33-year-old Son Heung-min, is leaving Tottenham, coming to the MLS on a record-shattering transfer fee reported around $26 million to join sixth-place LAFC. This would make the South Korean forward the most expensive incoming MLS transfer ever, and this is also the third record-setting transfer fee we've seen this season, and one of the best Asian players coming to LA. Yeah, really exciting that he's Korean, exciting that he's young. This is what MLS needs, by the way. We had Gareth Bale in here who played in LA for just 1 year, won the MLS Cup, but talked to you, 2 weeks ago, saying that they need higher salaries in MLS to continue recruiting the best players in the world. This is how you do it. Absolutely. And for the third time in 1 week, a sex toy was thrown onto a WNBA court during a game, this time hitting Indiana Fever's Sophie Cunningham in Tuesday's Sparks Fever game. Now, there was at least one other incident where a toy was thrown but did not reach the court. It just makes you wonder, what can the WNBA and security do to prevent this from happening? Have to do something, because it's no longer a joke. It's no longer funny. I think we all knew after it happened a second time, we're going to see more of this. We're going to see copycats. Now, we should know one fan has been arrested for throwing one of them, but he didn't do all three. We're showing this Sophie Cunningham tweet, by the way. She said, oh no, it's going to hit someone. And then indeed, it hit her. So players have talked to our Annie Costable about this. They're fed up. And of course, Diana Taurasi has something to say about this in the show. Absolutely. And breaking news from 49ers tight end George Kittle himself as he crashed the NFL Network broadcast Tuesday, saying he's distraught after the NFL banned all team personnel from providing or supplying smelling salts or ammonia packets of any form at NFL games. And of course, reports do indicate from the NFL's Head, Neck, and Spine Committee, this is also something that's big to mask concussions. Yeah, 100%. I want to make sure viewers understand what happens here. You could get hit on a play, but on the next drive, you sniff a smelling salt. It gives you that adrenaline rush. You feel like, I'm good to go. That's the safety danger. Let's also explain here that we distinguish between team personnel not being able to give the players smelling salts versus a player technically still could just bring it, although I think they might change that. My next question becomes, does it trickle down to the college football level? Right. Well, a non-binding deal with Disney and the NFL is finalized as Disney is acquiring the NFL's linear Red Zone channel and other properties. The NFL, on the other hand, gets a 10% equity stake in ESPN as the company prepares to launch its flagship streaming app August 21st. So how does this deal position ESPN going forward and change the streaming landscape at large? Let's get into that in our main event. We now welcome in our senior media reporter, Mike McCarthy, to tell us more about this ESPN NFL deal. Now, Mike, what else can you share about the components of the licensing agreement in terms of programming, rights, and the non-binding components?
Well, the one thing is this deal is not done. The NFL owners have to agree to it, and the regulators have to sign off on it. And don't forget, you have Big Daddy Donald Trump, who's watching from the sidelines, and he loves to involve himself in the NFL business, as we just saw with him getting involved in the Commanders stadium deal. So this deal is a long way from happening, but we talked to both the NFL and ESPN today. They were very confident, very optimistic that this could come together in the next year or so.
Yeah, Mike, I'm glad you double-click on the fact that they're confident. You would think they wouldn't go ahead and announce this unless they felt pretty good that this is going to go through. But just as a thought exercise, it's important that we're telling viewers it's not a done deal.
That's right.
And let's play this out. Imagine that for whatever reason, Trump or a different regulator, it does fall through. As you've reported over the years, the NFL had sort of been actively looking to sell off these media assets. What would the NFL do if it had to go back to square one?
I think the NFL will play the long game. They know, Dan, that they have the most valuable beachfront property in all of entertainment, which is live NFL games. So if this deal falls apart, they'll just go to Eddie Q at Apple or YouTube and say, how would you guys like it? And you know what? The NFL only gets more valuable. But again, Dan is spot on. Dan and I have covered these deals over the years that were announced with great fanfare and they died on the vine. I've got one word, for everybody out there: venue. 2 years ago, we were all at the Super Bowl and this skinny bundle was supposed to be this superpower combination of three giant media giants, and it never even got off the ground. So, are they confident this will go through? Yes. Is it a done deal? No.
A big part of this deal that makes it even more enticing, the NFL Red Zone. And there's been a lot of questions around, will Scott Hanson be the host? What will this look like? What will commercials look like? What do you know about the latest around how NFL Red Zone will be rolled out on ESPN?
Yeah, Renee, I'm so happy to announce to all Red Zone fans that Scott Hanson will be back as host. He has signed a new 4-year deal with NFL Network, which, as we know, is moving over to ESPN. And the NFL Network will retain production of the show, much like Pat McAfee retains production of his own show on ESPN. But here's the most fascinating thing about Red Zone that I think has come out of this deal, which is ESPN is getting the rights to the brand. That means they could do line extensions of the Red Zone brand and roll out NBA Red Zone, NHL Red Zone, a college football Red Zone. And if I'm Jimmy Pitaro and I've got Amazon and NBC Sports breathing down my neck this fall, I'm going to Adam Silver tomorrow and saying, how would you guys like to have an NBA Red Zone?
Well, and that's exactly right, Mike. There's a through line I see in this deal and a lot of other recent deals, and that is the ability to do extensions and carve out, slice off other packages. We know how good the NFL is with this. You've written about they're almost certainly going to do an international package, auction off the international games. And what this deal allows for ESPN and Disney is we bring to the table the whole power of the empire of Disney. Don't forget ABC and Hulu's in there. All the different spin-offs and series and channels they can do. Red Zone to me is just one example. They'll use that brand. They'll squeeze it for all it's worth. But this is where the puck is headed, right? Is getting a stake in your partners so that you can activate and launch a bunch of other stuff, more revenue, more deals, more partners.
That's right. Front Office Sports is increasingly reporting on leagues and media partners investing in each other. And it's a smart business strategy, Dan. You invest in each other's success. You know what I mean? If my money is on the line, if I've got skin in the game, you know what I mean? I'm going to be working harder to make you a success and vice versa. And also, if you're ESPN, this is the best insurance policy you can have, right? If you're in business with the NFL, literally equity partners, and NFL decides, as we all know they're going to do, that they're going to reopen their media deals in 2029, and all of a sudden Apple wants Monday Night Football, ESPN has a hell of a lot better chance at retaining their rights if they're in partnership with the NFL.
Yeah, we've seen this in Major League Baseball with John Boy Media. We've seen this now at the NFL and ESPN. How does this impact journalism, though, in terms of unbiased sports media coverage when you have the partnership between leagues and media?
Yeah, that's really the biggest question about this deal is, from a journalist's standpoint, it bothers me, the conflict of interest. Can ESPN legitimately and accurately report on the NFL if they are, in fact, partners with them? It's a big question. We're going to find out. But I also think that horse might be out of the barn. I mean, I think the days of ESPN deliberately antagonizing, or not so deliberately, but inadvertently antagonizing the NFL with things like playmakers and very hard-hitting coverage and criticism like that are over. I mean, I think ESPN and the other media rights partners know that right now the NFL is the biggest game in town, and they want to stay on the NFL's good side, just like the NFL wants to stay on Donald Trump's good side.
That's right, Mike. And, speaking of that part of the, angle here, the idea that ESPN has changed over the years already, so nothing is really that new. I want to make sure we squeeze in that fantasy and betting are a part of this.
That's right.
That ESPN is going to take NFL fantasy football, combine it with ESPN fantasy. That's one thing in terms of user experience. But, betting is another way that ESPN, I think, has changed and evolved over the years. 10 years ago, they never would have been talking about over-unders and the lines on SportsCenter.
Yeah, Dan is absolutely right. I mean, it's almost like you have to do a head snap to acclimate to the current climate. Do you remember for 20 years, Dan, NFL was leading the fight against sports betting? They were going to fight to the death and had lawsuits and all this. And, and now they're getting in business with a sports book. So times have changed. To Renee's point about Red Zone, they already experimented with commercials. They crossed that Rubicon last year. Unfortunately, I think that horse is out of the barn. As much as we all love Scott Hanson and his 7 hours of commercial-free football, I think that's history.
Yeah, well, guys, also to note, with this deal, we do see ESPN picking up the studio, the 75,000 square foot studio out in LA. That was NFL Network's home. So thank you so much for weighing in on this, Mike, and sharing more details. Well, coming up after this, we've got three-time WNBA champion Diana Taurasi joining us in studio.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where he drafted quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shadur's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's edge rushers. That's where it is right now. And I think Myles Garrett is in a class of his own. I think TJ Watt's right there. I think Micah Parsons is right there. Certainly, those guys are very, very good. Myles Garrett is in a class of his own. He just absolutely is. When the advanced stats about the double team rate, his quarterback pressure rate, all of that, he just stands a notch. I don't want to say a big gap, but he stands a notch ahead of those guys.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Was already pretty solid up top, but you had the bottom that's that much better with Ryan O'Hearn and Lariano. Like, we now have a well-rounded lineup on top of a great pitching staff. Michael King is expected to start making his rehab starts. So you have him plus Pavetta plus Dylan Cease. You Darvish is back. You have the frontline pitching, the depth in the lineup, and now a great bullpen. You have it all.
I really like it. Like I do. Like sometimes I get caught up in the Padres of what they can be.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Welcome back into Front Office Sports Today alongside Dan. I'm Renee, and we are welcoming in now in our FOS studios the WNBA's all-time leading scorer, 6-time Olympic gold medalist, 3-time WNBA champion, who has a docuseries coming out, Diana Taurasi. So great to have you here. Congrats on the career, but also this docuseries that drops August 7th on Prime Video, giving people a chance to see your entire basketball career. Diana, I'm curious, what were the key takeaways that you hope people get from watching this docuseries?
Yeah, it was really interesting making it. For a long time, I shied away from, kind of telling my story because it was my edge. It was my story. I took it with me on the court, and I felt like it made me play a little bit better. But, now that I'm retired, it It was a project to let people know how hard it was. Really, that's what I took away from it. 20 years in the game of basketball in the professional world, there was a lot of ups and downs, and it's not the perfect docuseries. It's not all the accolades. It's all the things behind the scenes that made the great moments really worth it.
How does it feel right now as you look at the momentum the league has and all the eyeballs, the investment? Like a tipping point has been reached, and it was you guys who laid the groundwork here. Do you feel a little bit like one step removed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, when you're in something for 20 years, you want to leave it better than when you got there. And, the league has always had these amazing moments. In 96, 97, when the league started, they were selling out arenas. 2004, when I got to the league, there was this huge momentum, and you could feel it. And there's always been little moments that have made the league regress. So this momentum, to me, has to be something that's long-lasting. I think that's why we have to be very careful to make sure the popularity matches what the players actually put in their pockets. I think that, to me, is the biggest difference of going forward to the moments in the past.
Yeah, and as you look back on your career since you were drafted first overall in 2004 to then retiring after 20 seasons with the Mercury, so much has changed. But as the audience continues to grow, I don't know that the support and the respect for the league has grown at the same pace. I mean, we even had 2 recent incidents of inappropriate things being thrown on the court. To me, shows there is still more work that needs to be done to help the audience have that respect for the WNBA. What do you think is missing or needs to even be better in how the WNBA is maybe being covered or anything like that to help garner that respect that it deserves? Yeah, no matter what, sports is a mirror of, social behavior in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And we know that, in the WNBA, the NBA, NHL, you can go on and on. In the WNBA, we still have a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of education that we have to put forward. And I think we're moving in the right direction. Those unfortunate situations, it's something that as female athletes, we always have to put up with. And, we're resilient. That's the one thing as we've shown in our league is we stay together and we just move forward. And, I would have just picked it up and throw it back at them.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you what you would have done if you were on the court.
I would have picked that thing up and thrown it right back at him.
There you go. You talked about players' pockets. I got to ask about the CBA negotiations and, there's fears of a lockout. So as the league grows, trying to get those salaries to grow in tandem. What do you expect to happen there? What are you hearing from people?
Yeah, I mean, the CBA is a dance, right? There's 2 sides, and each side has a bucket list of things that they want. And you're not going to get all of them. That's what we know from prior CBAs, from any sport. You have to come together and lay the groundwork that's going to benefit both sides. To me, player salaries is something I've always been outspoken about. We could talk about charters and we could talk about the media and attendance and jersey sales and social media hits, but are the players making more money? And right now the salaries are not going up for the WNBA players. We've seen an increase of 2% in the last 10 years, which is kind of aligned with American jobs. So we could go there too. But I think as we see these, franchise being, valuations going through the roof, that has to be, translated into the players' pockets. And, hopefully the CBA can move that forward.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we keep seeing these historic valuations and expansion that the league's having. But the reality is on the player side, salary is still the most pressing issue. And for you played overseas, you played in Russia. A lot of players still have to play overseas or even with Unrivaled in order to be able to support themselves financially. What is the financial reality as a player of what the WNBA salary provides and just kind of what that looks like?
Yeah, well, I always thought about I should get paid for being the best basketball player in the world. Not for doing social media or doing commercials. That was one of the things I always had the most angst about is I don't want to do commercials. I'm not a spokeswoman for every product in the world. I'm like the best basketball player in the world. And I think when I think of the NBA, Kobe got paid to be the best basketball player in the world. Right. Jokic got paid to be the best basketball player in the world. And I think we need to change that shift into women's basketball. That's what you are. Let's get paid for that. And hopefully the next CBA can reflect that.
What we hear from everyone who rolls through is well, every athlete is a brand now. And every athlete needs to do social, and every athlete needs to be toting a camera and filming their life. And I feel like you're saying, well, isn't it enough to just be great at the sport?
Well, that's a full-time job. I mean, you guys are in the media business. You know how hard it is to prepare and to be educated on these topics. So you have a full-time job as a professional athlete, and you want me to be a full-time media personality too? That's a lot of things to juggle. I'm just trying to dribble.
But it is interesting because endorsements are a big component of that. But
absolutely.
as you mentioned, beyond even the financial component of the endorsements, it's the brand. It's building an audience, building a brand. And you have been one that in the early parts of your career, you were a little bit more, you were quieter. We didn't hear as much about who you are off the court. And then we started to see the Burden Tarasi show. We had the docu-series. We're getting more about who you are. What has changed over the years that's made you more comfortable of being in front of the camera and more opportunities off the court?
Yeah, I mean, I think not playing anymore has opened that up for me. When I was playing, I was just so obsessed with being on the court and being in my lane of trying to be the best basketball player in the world. That's all I cared about. And I had a lot of long discussions with my agent, like, are you ever going to do anything but play basketball? And I was like, probably not. But here we are now, retired. And, now there are a lot of opportunities that have, opened up in the last couple of years. And, it's fun too, to be able to tell your story. And, you don't just get to a point with one moment. It takes a lot of different experiences. And hopefully this docuseries can, show what it takes to have a long career in any profession.
What else are you possibly doing? Coaching, investments, anything else you have lined up for what we can see in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the investments, those are behind the scenes things. Coaching, now that's a whole different story. I think people think because you can play basketball, you can coach, but those are two different disciplines. And I really haven't gotten to the coaching thing, but I don't see my life without basketball in the future. It's been something I've been doing since I was 5. I love it. All those things are compelling to me as a fan now.
Absolutely. Well, it'll be very compelling for people as a fan to see your new docuseries, Tarasi, dropping August 7th on Prime Video. You guys can check it out because you get all the behind the scenes, the highlights, and a little bit more about who the great Diana Taurasi is, the GOAT, the legend here in studios. Diana, thank you so much for your time. And we've got more coming up here on FOS Today right after this break. Stay tuned.
They're in a decent spot. They actually had a really great quarter this past quarter, and they're crediting what they're calling a smarter approach to sports betting and player quality, not just being lucky and being on the winning side of more bets. Of course, the past 2 quarters have been really bad for sports books, which just got hammered in the NFL playoffs, and then that continued into March Madness. But it looks like Q2 is shaping up to be much better for them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Want to hear a crazy stat, guys, with this Pittsburgh Pirates team? I brought this up yesterday. Out of 106 games, they have been involved in 27 shutouts, 13-4, 14 against. Over 1 out of every 4 Pittsburgh Pirate games ends in a shutout. How crazy is that?
Total is 8 tonight.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Was already pretty solid up top, but you had the bottom that's that much better with Ryan O'Hearn and Lariano. Like, we now have a well-rounded lineup on top of a great pitching staff. Michael King is expected to start making his rehab starts. So you have him plus Pavetta plus Dylan Cease. You Darvish is back. You have the frontline pitching, the depth in the lineup, and now a great bullpen. You have it all.
I really like it. Like I do. Like sometimes I get caught up in the Padres because of what they can be.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where you draft a quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shadur's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back into Front Office Sports Today. Dan and Renee here. We've got more news around ESPN as ESPN and the WWE have reached a 5-year, $1.6 billion deal where starting in 2026, ESPN platforms will be the exclusive home of all WWE premium live events. So let's welcome in our FOS media and entertainment reporter, Ryan Glasspiegel, to talk about this more. Glass, what else is included in this deal as the WWE moves from Peacock over to ESPN.
So it's interesting about what is included and what isn't included. This includes the rights to 10 PLEs, premium live events, formerly called pay-per-views, in which it goes over 12 nights because WrestleMania and SummerSlam are both 2 nights apiece. And there are going to be select few PLEs that are simulcast on ESPN linear platforms, which is something that has never been done before. So that's going to be fascinating. Now, as far as what isn't included, WWE's library rights, which Peacock has, as well as the PLE rights for NXT, which is WWE's developmental promotion. So WWE is going to get a couple more bites at the apple, slicing and dicing up this Peacock package.
Now, of course, Ryan, the primo product here is the live events, right? I mean, that's the thing that people are tuning in for more so than the library. Talk a little bit about the kind of journey that the WWE has been on in terms of eyeball growth, attendance growth, getting to this point where it's worth this much to ESPN to have those events.
Yeah, so the deal with Peacock was 5 years for either like 900 million or $1 billion. I mean, pocket change. But the increase for ESPN on this package was like 60 to 80%. And again, that's without a couple of those other components included that are going to sweeten the pot. WWE's attendance is just through the roof. You look at it any night they're on Monday, Friday, or the Sunday or Saturday PLEs, the arenas and even stadiums are just packed to the gills, and the prices have been going up and up and up. And so they really, since Nick Khan left CAA during the pandemic in 2020 to join WWE, they really have just been compounding revenue growth like nobody's business.
And on the other side for ESPN, you look at all they've been doing recently. I know we talked earlier in the show about the deal with the NFL. You now also are in a deal with the WWE and are in looking at their direct-to-consumer services that launch August 21st, the same day that Fox also launches Fox One, their direct-to-consumer services. How important is it for ESPN that they just continue to lock in so many massive programming in terms of audience?
This is big for WWE. Now, I do want to clarify that if you're already an ESPN subscriber through cable or satellite or YouTube TV, you're going to be able to get these WWE PLEs for free by doing login authentication. But as far as people who are cord cutters or cord nevers and have never been subscribed to these cable and satellite bundles, those people are going to have to pay $30 a month if they want to watch the WWE PLEs. And I think it's a pretty portable audience. Now, they haven't been asked to pay this much before. It was $9.99 a month for WWE Network. I don't exactly know where Peacock is right now, probably in like the $15 range. So they're going to be doubling if they're not already ESPN subscribers. And it's going to be interesting to see how many of them migrate.
Yeah, ESPN continues to bolster their partnerships to try to expand their audience. Glass, thank you so much for joining us to talk about it. And now let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Well, Dan, a former Miami Heat security officer has been charged with allegedly stealing more than 400 game-worn jerseys and other items for about $2 million from the Heat. Now, Marcos Thomas Perez worked with Miami from 2016 to 2021, later worked with the league from 2022 to 2025, and in that he stole a LeBron James NBA Finals jersey that sold for, at the time, $100,000, and then was auctioned for $3.7 million, and then now the 62-year-old, in my opinion, has set himself up with the all-time retirement plan, maybe?
Wow. Well, look, I mean, first of all, you almost always get caught, right? I mean, because only a certain limited number of people have access to these places, to the locker room, to the tunnel, to the cart with the laundry in it, whatever. What's interesting about this to me, and maybe I'm giving, a dated boomer take here, but it's just a quiet reminder, and I think people forget this, of how valuable collectibles still are. Apparel, game-worn jerseys, game-worn cleats, things like that, a game-used ball. And what's interesting about that is in the digital era, I would think that most fans, the most valuable thing they could get is a selfie with themselves in it, a photo. Yeah. For example, I don't want anything autographed. I don't need anything autographed.
You want a sweaty jersey that LeBron
Yeah, it's
wore?
like, okay, wow, he held the pen and he held it himself and signed it. I'd rather have a photo with the person. But obviously, I'm either in the minority or there's still a huge market for these game-used, game-worn things. And I That's why collectibles are still booming. Even in the digital era, people want a physical piece of memorabilia that they can put up on their shelf or their wall.
Yeah, these items were also being kept for a future Miami Heat museum display, so they're not there anymore.
Let the museum have it.
Well, that will do it for this episode of FOS Today. Tomorrow, we've got more coming your way around the WNBA trade deadline. Be sure to tune in for that. Have a good one.